Welcome to Meet Me at the Grizz, Scouting at RSR. I'm your host, Ken Clough, and I want to thank you for pulling up a seat and joining me for our very first episode. For those of you who know Rotary Scout Reservation of the Twin Rivers Council, the phrase, Meet Me at the Grizz has special meaning. The Grizz Pavilion is one of the camp's iconic landmarks, a gathering place, a meeting point, a symbol of the community built there. Saying, Meet Me at the Grizz is shorthand for, let's connect, let's share stories, and let's be together. That's exactly the spirit of this podcast. This show is all about Rotary Scout Reservation, or RSR for short, one of the summer camps of the Twin Rivers Council here in Upstate New York. Over the course of this series, we'll talk about the history of the camp, the experiences of scouts, the lessons leaders learn, and the leadership skills developed by the young men and women who staff it. But before we dive into interviews and stories, today's inaugural episode is about three things. Number one, I'll introduce you to Rotary Scout Reservation, where it is, what it offers, and why it matters. Number two, I'll share a little of my personal journey in scouting, how I went from a scout in the 1970s to a dad and leader with my two sons, to a council president, and a volunteer who still finds himself drawn back to camp every summer. And third, I'll explain why I started this podcast, why Meet Me at the Grizz exists, what you can expect, and how it can bring the RSR community together, even beyond the summer season. So let's begin with the place that makes all of this possible, Rotary Scout Reservation. Rotary Scout Reservation, more than a camp. Nestled in the wooded hills of upstate New York, not far from Averill Park in Albany, New York, Rotary Scout Reservation, or RSR for short, is a summer camp for the Twin Rivers Council. The moment you turn onto the camp road, you know you've entered a place where adventure, tradition, and growth all come together. RSR spans about 1,300 acres of forest, fields, and lakefront. It's big enough that scouts feel like they've stepped into true wilderness, yet it's close enough to home for troops from across New York, Massachusetts, Vermont, and other states to gather here every summer. At the heart of RSR is Davit Lake, where so many scouts spend their mornings splashing, paddling, or learning life-saving skills. One of the strengths of RSR is the variety of program areas. Each one offers scouts a chance to try something new, sharpen a skill, or earn a merit badge that might ignite a lifelong passion. Let's walk through them. Aquatics. The lake is the centerpiece of camp life. Here, scouts swim, canoe, kayak, row, sail, and practice life-saving. Many scouts earn their BSA swimmer certification at RSR, and some go on to tackle the challenging life-saving or small boat sailing merit badges. It's the perfect mix of fun, adventure, and safety training. Archery. At the archery range, scouts line up with bows in hand, learning precision, patience, and focus. Whether they're earning the archery merit badge or just practicing for fun, this program builds discipline and confidence. Community safety. This area helps scouts understand their role as responsible citizens. From first aid to emergency preparedness, from fire safety to public health, the merit badges here build practical knowledge that applies well beyond camp. COPE and climbing. COPE stands for Challenging Outdoor Personal Experience, and that's exactly what it delivers. High ropes, low ropes, and climbing walls push scouts to work together, trust their teammates, and stretch beyond their comfort zones. For older scouts, this is often the highlight of camp. Ecology and conservation. In the fields and forests of RSR, scouts discover the natural world up close. They study plants, animals, ecosystems, and conservation practices. Whether earning environmental science, fish and wildlife, or weather merit badges, scouts leave with a deeper respect for the outdoors. Handicrafts. Here, creativity comes alive. Scouts learn leatherworking, basketry, wood carving, and art. It is often where younger scouts first find success, creating projects they can bring home and show proudly to their families. Range and target activities. Beyond archery, RSR offers rifle and shotgun shooting under careful supervision. Safety is paramount, but so is fun. Scouts learn responsibility, marksmanship, and control, skills that stick with them long after camp ends. Scoutcraft. This is scouting at its roots. Camping, fire building, pioneering, orienteering, and survival skills. Scoutcraft connects today's scouts with generations who learn to tie knots, build towers, and cook over open fires. STEM. Rotary embraces modern learning through science, technology, engineering, and math. Scouts might study robotics, chemistry, or space exploration. STEM at camp shows that curiosity and creativity don't just belong in classrooms, they thrive in the outdoors. Trail to First Class. For new scouts, this program is a structured path to mastering the skills needed for their first ranks. From learning how to tie knots to practicing first aid, the Trail to First Class program ensures that every scout has a foundation to succeed in their troop back home. Each of these areas is more than just a program station. They're places where scouts discover hidden talents, challenge themselves, and sometimes even uncover a passion that changes their lives. But what makes RSR more than just a list of programs is the way these experiences come together. A scout might spend the morning paddling on the lake, the afternoon carving a project in handicrafts, and the evening solving problems on the cope course. By the time they gather at the campfire at night, they've stretched their minds, their bodies, and their sense of possibility. And then there's the Grizz, the pavilion that sits at the center of camp as a landmark, a meeting place, and now the inspiration for this podcast. Meet Me at the Grizz has become part of camp language. It's more than just a spot. It's a symbol of the camp's community. My scouting story. My connection to scouting began in the mid-1970s when I first put on the uniform myself. Weekly troop meetings, camping trips, and service projects, all of it gave me skills, confidence, and friendships that shaped who I became. Years later, when my two sons were old enough, they joined scouting as tiger cubs. And like many parents, I started as a helper on the sidelines, until suddenly I was in deeper than I ever imagined. I went from a once-a-week commitment to being a den leader, a troop committee chair, and eventually a council leader. I often say that scouting was the bridge that gave me a positive, lasting relationship with my sons. We shared countless experiences, overcame challenges together, and built memories that are still at the core of our relationship today. Along the way, I served the Twin Rivers Council in various leadership roles, as a district chairman, as a member of the executive board, and eventually as council president. But my fondest memories weren't in boardrooms. They were at Rotary Scout Reservation. I spent about a dozen summers at RSR with my sons and their troops. I was one of those leaders who helped manage logistics, encouraged scouts through challenges, and sometimes just sat back and watched them grow. In fact, my connection to RSR is so strong that I wrote a book about it. During my oldest son's first summer at camp, I kept a daily journal of everything that happened, what merit badges he worked on, how the troop bonded, and how he faced challenges and overcame them. Later, I turned that journal into a book called Our Week at Rotary Scout Reservation. It's available on Amazon, and while it's our family's story, it's also a reflection of the universal camp experience that so many Scout families share. Beyond my troop leadership, I've stayed connected at camp in other ways. I volunteered on check-in days, helping welcome troops on Sunday afternoons. The nervous excitement of that first day is something you never forget. I also served as a photography merit badge counselor, teaching scouts to tell story through images, combining my passion for photography with my commitment to scouting. and my family's connection doesn't end with me. My oldest son served on staff at Rotary for 5 years. Watching him transition from camper to leader, learning responsibility, teamwork, and service, that was one of the proudest parts of my scouting journey as a parent. All of these threads, my youth in scouting, my son's experiences, my leadership roles, my summers at camp, my volunteer work, are woven into the reason I'm sitting here today, launching Meet Me at the Grizz, Scouting at RSR. Why this podcast? So, why create this podcast? Because summer camp is more than just a week away from home. It's an experience that shapes lives. At RSR, Scouts learn independence. They figure out how to make decisions, manage their time, and solve problems without mom or dad stepping in. They develop leadership. Patrol leaders and senior patrol leaders learn what it means to guide others. They make mistakes. They regroup, and they grow stronger. They gain outdoor skills and confidence. From building fires to paddling a canoe, from tying knots to climbing ropes, Scouts push their limits and discover what they're capable of. And maybe, most importantly, they form friendships. Bonds made at camp often last a lifetime, whether with troop mates, fellow campers, or staff members. But here's the challenge. If you've never been to summer camp, it's hard to understand just how transformative it can be. Parents send their kids, excited to see what they'll discover. New leaders show up with a lot to manage. Even Scouts themselves sometimes don't realize what's in store until they live it. This podcast exists to bridge that gap. Meet Me at the Grizz will tell the story of RSR, its history, its people, its traditions, and its impact. We'll talk to Scouts about their experiences. We'll sit down with adult leaders to share advice and encouragement. We'll highlight the camp staff, whose hard work and leadership skills make the entire experience possible. We'll also cover practical topics: how to prepare for camp, what to pack, how to choose merit badges, and what leaders can do to make the week a success. Most of all, this podcast will serve as a campfire circle you can join in anytime, anywhere. A place to hear stories, share lessons, and celebrate the tradition of Rotary Scout Reservation. Looking ahead. So, what's ahead in future episodes of Meet Me at the Grizz, Scouting at RSR? You'll hear Scout voices, interviews with campers about their week at Rotary, the highs, the challenges, and the memories they will take home. Adult leader insights, conversations with Scoutmasters, assistant leaders, and parents who walked the trails and survived a week in camp with a group of very energetic Scouts. Staff spotlights, the stories of those who run the program areas, direct the waterfront, manage the campfire programs, and make the magic happen. Traditions and history, deep dives into the origins of RSR and the symbols and rituals, like the Grizz, that make camp what it is. Practical guides, tips on preparing for camp, picking merit badges, and navigating that first-year experience as a scout or leader. Campfire stories, the funny, heartfelt, and sometimes unbelievable tales that only happen at camp. Each episode will be about more than information. It will be about community. My hope is that this becomes a resource for current Scouts and leaders, a guide for families, and a place for alumni to reconnect with their memories. Closing thoughts. As we close this first episode, I want to return to that central phrase, meet me at the Grizz. At camp, the Grizz is a place where people gather, a marker you can count on, a spot where paths converge. This podcast is meant to be the same thing, a gathering place. Whether you're a scout preparing for your first summer, a parent curious about what camp is like, a leader looking for advice, a staff member excited to return, or an alum remembering the smell of pine needles and campfires, this podcast is for you. So, I invite you to come on this journey with me. Subscribe, share it with your troop, and join me as we explore everything that makes Rotary Scout Reservation unforgettable. Thank you for listening to this inaugural episode of Meet Me at the Grizz, Scouting at RSR. I'm your host, Ken Clough, and until next time, I'll see you at the Grizz.